Hey guys, welcome back to Joe Knows. I'm glad you're listening in today. I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount we find it in Matthew's chapter 5, 6, and 7. Jesus spoke to a group of people and he talked about principles of the kingdom. Kingdom meaning principles for God's people, that it's probably the way things are lived out in heaven, but how we can bring heaven to earth. And Jesus talked about some things, and what he was doing was he was speaking to a group of people and he was raising the bar. He was telling them what a good things were, maybe status quo good, but he was raising the bar and talking about what was great. And I want to read a couple of these to you. He said, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you,'" and this is where he raises the bar, "that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment." So Jesus talks about the fact that whereas it was written that murder is wrong, I'm saying to even be angry at someone is a form of murder. And he raises the bar. He says, don't even be angry at your brother or sister. He says this, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.'" So adultery is something that he's claiming that was always said to be wrong. But Jesus now raises the bar. He says, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." And then Jesus goes on and says, "It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce." Now, in Jesus' day, a man could divorce a woman for any and every reason, and he could choose to give her or to not give her a certificate of divorce. The certificate of divorce was a man's way of kindly divorcing his wife. It allowed her to remarry. So Jesus says, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you, Jesus raises the bar higher, that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Sets the bar higher. Listen to this. "Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made.'" So the status quo of being good was when you promise the Lord you're going to do something, do it. But now Jesus raises the bar. "But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool." And he says, "And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white. All you need to say is simply yes or no." Jesus is saying, you've heard it said, when you commit a vow, when you make a vow, when you swear to do something, do it. But Jesus says, how about just let your yes be yes and your no be no? How about not having to even swear to emphasize you're speaking the truth? Just always speak the truth and do the things you say you're going to do. I'm going to give you one more. "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you," Jesus raises the bar, "love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Now here's what Jesus is doing. He is actually raising the bar and giving us what we have called kingdom principles, the higher standards of God by which we as God's people should live. So the question becomes, do I have to live that way? Do I have to, another one would be turn the other cheek. When later on in that last passage I read to you, he says if someone slaps you on one side of the cheek, turn the other cheek and let them slap you again. In other words, don't defend yourself, don't retaliate to violence with further violence. And these are kingdom principles. And you say, Joe, I don't know. How can you get along in life by constantly taking the high road? And here's the thing. It's not that we should do those things. It's that as God's people, we can do those things. You see, as God's people, followers of Jesus Christ, who have the Holy Spirit living within us, we can take the high road. We don't have to retaliate. We don't have to, it's not just that we don't want to commit adultery. We even want to think about committing adultery with someone. It's not only that, it's not that we want to get divorced and be kind in the divorce, but we don't even want to consider divorce, knowing that God hates that. It's not that we want to just be kind to our enemies, but to our neighbors and love those that love us, but we want to even love those who hate us and who persecute us. I think what we're learning here in these scriptures is that as followers of Jesus Christ, with the Holy Spirit in us, we have the ability to live at a higher level, to live a better life, to live by a higher standard. So it's not that we should do those things, it's that we can do those things. We can respond to the evil that comes our way in the world with a smile and in love. And in so doing, we can have the character that Jesus had, and we can also reflect the light of who Jesus truly is. So here's what I want you to think about in the days ahead. I want you to think about, as you go through life, when someone cuts you off, instead of flipping them off or getting angry or yelling at them and feeling justified, I want you to take the high road. The high road is, hey, they must be in a rush, something's wrong. Maybe they don't even realize what they did. When someone does something to you to hurt you, when you sense you have an enemy, instead of retaliating at that enemy, I want you to think about loving your enemies. I want you to do, when you feel like you want to hate someone, instead of speaking those words of hate, which the Lord said, for us, that's like murdering them in a sense, then you wouldn't even respond that way. You would speak well of all people. And in so doing, you will experience the grace that God has for us. You'll experience the joy, the love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness in this life that we can experience regardless of what's coming at us. And as things come at us, we can reflect them with the love of God that was demonstrated to us by Jesus Christ. These kingdom principles are not something that we have to do, they're something that we can do. So how about let's live that way and experience the joy of kingdom living. God bless you. I'll talk to you next week.